I don't know if this is gonna work. Hey, I'm Cameron. Welcome back to the Busy Gardener channel. Today I'm gonna take this dry, barren desert of garden beds and we're gonna roll this line out. We're gonna do some other attachments and we're gonna turn this area into a lush oasis. Let's get busy. You, like me, want to make sure that when you plant something, it's going to thrive. And one of the major things that any kind of plant is going to need is water. Here in Southern California, we're not naturally getting a ton of water from the sky. And, this is kind of a normal situation for us, dusty, dingy. And so we need to provide some supplemental irrigation in order to keep things happy and thriving. Plenty of sunshine, plenty of warmth, but not always a ton of water. And so what we've wanted to do is to take these beds that we finally have built and put the irrigation in place so that way it's low maintenance and yet is giving these plants all the water that they're going to need. I'm going to walk you through a few things that I've had to consider as I plan this out. Well, as you can see here, we have some flowers, even though these ranunculus have gotten beat up by the heat that just came through here, 90-something degrees. These are going dormant for the season, but it is possible to keep plants like this alive by coming through with a soaker hose that we had attached and we're manually turning on and off, or coming through with a sprayer attached to like the hose reel that we have, or even coming through with a watering can. And that might work for a small area like this, but we've got something like 900 square feet that we want eventually planted out. And so we needed something that was way more robust than that was gonna be able to provide enough water and to provide it automatically so that way we don't have to think about it too much. Unlike fruit trees, vegetables are really sensitive, and if you miss one hot day, watering on one hot day in the summer, you can come back and have everything just scorched. We don't want that, so we're gonna do the things we need to do in order to make that work. And I'm gonna share with you some of the things that we used in order to do this, and I'm gonna put links to a bunch of this stuff so that way if you're interested in getting them, you can too. I got a majority of our drip stuff from DripDepot, and we got some things from Home Depot, and there was another source that I had to get this, 1,000 feet of drip line. Hey, and before the video goes on any further, why don't you let me know, are you team drip system or are you team hand water? Put that in the comments below. When it comes to watering your plants, you've got a couple of options in terms of how you're going to deliver that water. One is to do like an overhead spray through something like sprinklers, and the other has to do with a drip line, which is like this 1,000 feet that I got from Dig, and it has an emitter spaced every 12 inches or so and is putting out a ½ gallon per hour. And so because we're in a really warm climate, we don't want that water broadcast all over the place, getting everywhere wet and then evaporating out. We want that delivered as closely as we can to the root system so that way we're not wasting any water. We're like perpetually in a drought over here, and we're like perpetually in a drought over here, and we're like perpetually in a drought. I've also come to really appreciate flexibility when it comes to watering the orchard with different zones. And so from DripDepot, I've ordered a whole bunch of different shutoff valves and emitter types and, drip lines and stakes and all of this stuff. So that way I have as much flexibility as possible. And I've tried to build that into the system. In addition to the drip line, I'm also going to be using some blank tubing. And the blank tubing is going to be used for those runs where I don't want anything coming out of the tube itself. I might plug in a couple of emitters with some 1/4 inch line or something like that. This is here so that way I can get a run into that bed over there without it spilling all over the place. 2 pro tips. First is these gardening shears are so wonderful at cutting off tubing. And the second is, in order to secure this into the ground, these landscape staples are fantastic. So you can get the plastic ones that nicely curve around it, but these are gonna work well as well. They go down a little bit deeper and they hold it from both sides. Any of those things will work. This corner right here is what holds the secret to watering this entire bed, and that is this little spout coming off of here. This is a barbed connector to be able to attach my drip line right to it, and that is powered by this container here. Inside here, we've got a valve, we've got a shutoff, and we've got a water supply that's coming through and watering this entire bed as a single zone, and each of the beds has this setup. And so that way I'm gonna be able to go differing amounts, turn one of them off, or just not even run it at all, run it for different lengths of time. So I'm really appreciative for that flexibility. Coming off of this barb is where the flexibility is going to happen, where I'm gonna have like a single line running over there. I'm gonna have a few other lines running over here, and I'm gonna show you what I'm doing with those. Okay, the main layout that I'm going to use for this area is I'm going to run a blank line all the way across that's going to feed that bed on that side, as well as give me an opportunity to plug in some 1/4-inch lines and do some overhead sprays if I need to. And then with this drip irrigation, with the drip line, which we have 1,000 feet of, we're going to be placing that and snaking it back and forth, and going to keep it about 1 foot apart from each other, because that's about the spacing that you need. One's going to go from this side and one's going to go from this side, and generally going to be irrigating it sufficiently at the roots. And then around here or so, we're going to have an 18-inch walkway. And then over here or so, we're gonna have an 18-inch walkway. And so that way we'll be able to come over and work on our stuff without stepping in the bed right behind us. If we need to, we'll be able to step over and just be able to walk through. So I can't remember, I'll need to look at my layout. Is it 4 feet across or 3 feet across? We've got 9 feet total to work with, so it's gonna be 4 and 2 or 3 and 3. I don't know. I'm gonna check it out and see what feels better. When it comes to laying all of this line out, who are you? I'm you from the future. Oh, the future, what's it like? I mean, it's like a month from now, so it's like now, but just a month later. Everything's pretty much the same. I have come to tell you that this is going to take you way longer than you thought it was going to take. Why does it take so long? Well, mainly because the connectors start to hurt your hands after you could do so many of them, and pretty much you also just make excuses, all right, about why you don't need to go out and work on it. No. What's gonna make this easier? Oh, the easiest thing by far is to have a second person help. So that way while you're unrolling it, you can have them put those staples in the ground and just hand you different things. Makes it way easier, and it's a lot less lonely too. All right, thanks a bunch. See you in a month. You bet, see you then. What I have here, kind of the anatomy of this layout here, is that this is the main water that's connected to our like sprinkler valve. So that way that's the automated irrigation is in this box right here. That feeds this line, which then pressurizes or charges all of these other lines. And so I've got a valve here to be able to shut that zone off. I've got this valve to shut this main zone off. And then I've got this main water supply that is going and allows me to tap in individual sprinklers that I can turn off. And it's feeding the other bed. And so using these valves has given me a lot of flexibility in terms of where I want to water and when I want to water it. To make it possible to till this area up while being able to avoid all of these sprinkler lines, that's why I attach these removable pieces. And so this has made it really convenient to just detach right here, unscrew this, remove that entire zone, and just get it out of the way so that way we can more easily till everything without hitting the tubes. Same thing goes here. I can remove this entire section. I can leave that one line in place, and that worked really well for doing this one, and that one. Okay, so under these stairs, we ran this pipe. We ran 2 1-inch pipes and 1 2-inch pipe, PVC, just to have some channels so we would never have to dig out from underneath this entire span of concrete. It's always easier to throw 5 lines under here before all the concrete gets poured than to do it after the fact. So right now that's coming in super handy. So this is turning out to be a lot longer proposition. I want to make sure that everything's done right, but there are a bunch of pieces that need to happen. I've got to come through and run all these lines. I've got to dig over there because inside the ground is a pipe that lets me go to the other side. I've got to find the pipe. I've got to make sure it's clear. It's not the end of the world, man, but there's just a lot of pieces to this. It's going to feel good when it's done. Okay, one solid day kind of plotting this out, working it out. A little bit of work yesterday morning, a little bit of work this morning just to get this one section going. I want to see how this works. I'm going to fire it up for the first time. Let's see how it's going. Okay, it looks like I have the appropriate valve open to energize this section. This hasn't been connected yet here, so I've got this valve off. And so I'm going to turn this on and just see what happens. Let's go. Uh-oh, I hear water. Oh yeah. It's weeping, and I am too. I'm weeping with joy. The whole thing's getting energized over here. I've got it capped off at the end, and so I can hear air escaping through those. Oh yeah, the whole system is going. Yes! So it's half a gallon an hour per hole, and it just slowly weeps out of here. And so it weeps on the top and the bottom, I think. Okay, so this is running across here. It's hanging a left. I'm kind of checking for leaks also. Although leaks don't totally matter on this part of it because it's only going to be on for a period of time. That's going underneath there and coming up here. So let's see. Whoa. Firing range. That's awesome. Okay, this is working. And the end of this, it's totally clamped off. Beautiful. Man, I'm overjoyed that this is working. Now I need to go through and create it for the rest of the beds. Okay, this is the moment of truth. This is actually a good test of whether or not these valves are shutting off what I want them to shut off. And so I've got this entire bed shut off. I've got this bank. I've got that bank over there. And I'm trying to just water that part over there. And so I'm going to test this out, see if we've got water flowing and if everything is isolated like I'd hoped. Okay, we've got water flowing. I want to make sure that this is off, that this is turned off. So now we're going to go over here. So we shouldn't see any water coming out of here, which I don't hear anything. I do hear water over here. And we've got this valve off because that's going in nowhere. Hey, and it's doing it. It's dripping. It's dripping. It's dripping. It's dripping. Watch it. Watch it. Watch it. Yes. Yes. It's doing it. So now this is amazing because this is a part where we planted some things. We have some fennel, we've got some kale, and I think that's probably it over here. Maybe kale, yeah. So this is awesome. So this is all dripping now. Ideally, we want these facing upright and it's gonna dribble over the side. You never want it going straight in the ground because you want to soak a larger area. And if it goes straight down into the soil, it sometimes will go straight down. And so we want this to permeate along the sides. Very, very exciting. What I'll be able to do is to come through and just rotate these by hand, and that'll make them kind of fall straight up, and I'll have to do that at both sides just to make sure. But wow, successful test. All right, this bed, once I do this bank over here, tear up these weeds, then we'll be ready to go. This is where the magic happens. This drip system is delivering water right to the soil beneath the roots. You know, many plants do not actually want water on their foliage because it can scald the foliage if there's sunlight. It can also create some environments where fungus and other diseases can creep in. And so usually delivering water right to the roots is ideal. And so as it slowly drips out, this is about, each emitter is about a half gallon per hour. And so what this will do is slowly saturate the soil around it. You see that happening here. And that saturation will slowly spread to the roots. And that's true for each of these dahlias. As we look at these cosmos over here, you might be thinking, well, the water's only hitting in a couple of spots. Like, how is that one over there getting watered? It's not even near it. But the way that soil works when water hits it is that water goes down in the shape of a cone. And so if it's very fast draining soil, then that cone is going to be shaped like this. So it's going to hit at the top and it's going to go down and spread out. The more, well, I can't spread my fingers that much, but the more clay is in the soil or the less quickly draining it is, it's going to spread out further. And so what we want to do is encourage the root systems of each of these plants to go down deeper to be able to get water. And that makes them more resilient on those hot days. So that way any roots near the surface don't get baked because they've got nice deep roots. I can't believe I'm saying this, but we are all done. We've got the lines in, we've got the valves in, we've got the staples holding everything in place. Some of the lines, because of temperatures, can disform and just kind of shift a little bit. We can straighten those out very easily. But this project is ready to plant.